Hi, hello, mabuhay. Welcome back to another episode of Krista's Curiosity, and this is going to be different because, as you can see, Long isn't here. My co-host is gone. He's off doing volleyball things, and all of my guesses are not here, but that's okay because we are doing a movie review on Wicked. Hopefully, you can see my Wicked shirt that they gave. Thank you to Allied Global Marketing for giving Ground Zero Radio the opportunity to watch an advanced screening of Wicked. We really enjoyed the movie. I went into theaters not knowing anything about Wicked. I didn't know it was a musical. I just kind of knew it was part of like The Wizard of Oz somehow, and that Ariana Grande was Glinda, the Good Witch. But I came out of theaters like crying, sobbing, laughing. I really enjoy, like, I'm not a fan of musicals, but I did enjoy the singing, the songs, the witty humor, set design, of course, costumes, and the character chemistry. I think I was genuinely impressed by the movie's pacing too. Even though this is part one of Wicked, it definitely like pulls on your heartstrings, and it has like a good reflection of modern day society. And Wicked will be releasing this Friday, November 22nd, 2024. Um, so make sure you go watch it, check it out. And before I really jump into the meat of everything, you should go watch all my other episodes with Long, such as our co-host reveal one, our Dan to Dan one, and now the one that dropped today about the Seattle CID market and who are the girlies. And you can show all these episodes love and stay updated with Ground Zero Radio, their YouTube, their Instagram, and also my podcast's socials at Krista's Curiosity on everything. But this is now where I will be sharing major spoilers and plots of Wicked. So if you haven't already, go watch it before watching this review. And if I were to summarize Wicked in one sentence, it would be about how the good intentions of Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, turned her into the Wicked One, because I think that her good intentions were misinterpreted and they were taken out of context, and the show really did a good job of showing how everybody around her was truly the Wicked One and it wasn't her. So I'll start from the beginning. The movie opens with Cynthia Erivo, the actress who plays the Wicked Witch of the West, Elphaba, dead. They close up on her black hat, and the black hat is the same black hat that Ariana Grande's character Glinda gave to her when they were still students at Shiz University. There are sirens and alerts of Glinda's voice informing everybody of Oz that the Wicked Witch of the West is dead. And then it proceeds to town with the first song and dance, and they burn scarecrows and they rip off Elphaba's like wanted posters, and they're like, down with the witch, down with the witch. And you see Glinda coming down in her pink bubble and her pink wand, and the same wand that she has was only given to her because of Elphaba speaking to Madame Warbles, the headmaster of Shiz University. And without Elphaba's good word, Glinda wouldn't have been able to learn sorcery magic from Madame Warbles, but that I will talk about later. So Glinda comes down and she reassures the citizens that they can finally live in peace until a girl asks Glinda if Elphaba was once her friend. And this is where I will explain what a bathtub story is, because it's important to note that this question is really what makes the movie like the movie, because the entire movie is based on a flashback of Glinda's perspective from their time at Shiz University. And how I see it, the story format of Wicked falls into what I had said, like a literary form called a bathtub story, where a character in present day is trying to make a decision based on their memories of the past. So the majority of the story is told through flashbacks, and nothing in the present day is happening after until they are done reminiscing, and only then can they make a decision to do or not do an action. So again, keep in mind that everything that is happening from the moment that that girl has asked Glinda, like, oh, were you Elphaba's friend once? That is present day, and everything else after until the end is basically flashbacks. So, with that in mind, I wanted to preference that because to make a bathtub story really successful is that the audience and the readers have to be really engrossed in the memories that you don't even notice the timelines being different, and everything should blend seamlessly, which is exactly what Wicked did. And moreover, like, the audience is already made aware of how Cynthia's character Alphaba is dead from the opening scene, which adds another layer of dramatic irony. So despite all the good memories that Glinda and Alphaba may have shared in her flashback, just remember that this story does not have a happy ending, and it's made clear from the beginning. So, to recount, Glinda admits to being Alphaba's friend once a long time ago, but she asks a question back to them of like, do you think that people are truly born wicked, or do they become wicked over time? So Glinda's flashbacks first starts with Alphaba's childhood and how Alphaba's father was the governor of Munchkin Land, and her mother, who I'm gonna assume was a stay-at-home wife, was having an affair behind his back. Her lover gives her a green elixir bottle, and she continuously drinks it until she gives birth to Alphaba. And I feel like that's why she has green skin, because it is a green elixir bottle. I don't know what the content inside of it is, but once her mother gives birth to her, everybody is disgusted because she has green skin, except the bear maid. And I don't remember the bear maid's name, but this bear is the one that takes care of Alphaba and her younger sister Nessa. And Alphaba is deeply protective of Nessa because, one, she's disabled from birth, and two, the other kids are always making fun of her and of them in general because they're misfits and they don't fit in. And this is the first time we see Alphaba like really channel or tap into her anger and unjust treatment, because she levitates rocks to throw at the kids who are making fun of them. And this is when she realizes she holds some sort of magical power in her. So, fast forwarding to Shiz University, we meet college Glinda, a spoiled it girl who cares way too much about her social appearance, because she claims how she can't stand those who are less fortunate than her, and tries to help them from the goodness of her heart. But everything she does is to make herself look so much better than others in the public's eyes. And I know everybody was worried about Ariana's acting, but to me, I feel like she played Glinda in such a classy way where, yes, you know that Glinda's a brat because she gets everything she wants, but because she slays so hard, you can't help but also like her at the same time. So she's like an insufferable character, who you love and hate. And I think, to me, she reminded me of like a classier Sharpay from High School Musical. But so again, like, they're in Shiz University and Alphaba enrolls. And originally it was only supposed to be Nessa, the younger sister, attending Shiz University, until Madame Warbles, played by Michelle Yeoh. Yes, Michelle Yeoh, from the actress from Everything Everywhere All at Once. She plays the headmistress at Shiz University, and she sees Alphaba use her sorcery powers again when stopping the lady who tried to wheelchair Nessa away without her consent. And when this happens, all the students are freaked out by this commotion, but Madame Warbles reassures everyone that, oh, that was just me, don't worry, like, I just wanted to surprise you all. And then she pulls Alphaba to the side and accepts her as her only student to teach that entire year or quarter or semester, because she wants to help her harness her sorcery powers. And obviously Glinda wants to also be Madame Morble's student, but she can't, and she's jealous of Alphaba because of this. And this is the second time where Alphaba uses her powers out of anger because nobody was listening to her sister's insistence of not needing help. And she is tired of everybody seeing them as people who need to be fixed, because right before this scene, Glinda offers to fix Alphaba's green skin once she learns like sorcery powers. And I thought this scene was one of the major scenes in the movie where it introduces social conformity and how you can't disobey like invisible societal rules. So not only is there like ableism being shown towards like Alphaba and Nessa, but the way everyone around them acts in a very like performative justice way that mirrors how people in our society may act towards individuals with disabilities without recognizing their biases. And it's subtle and it may seem harmless, but I think when Glinda says like, "Oh, I think I can fix you," that's really viewing them as someone who's lesser, and maybe really, or no, just really, that other person just wants to be understood on a personal and emotional level. But sidetracking, that was my sidetrack, sorry. However, Madame Warbles seems to be the only other person in Alphaba's life where the bear maid, from her childhood, like these are the two people who see past like Alphaba's green skin and they treat her like a normal human being. And in order to gain Madame Morble's approval, Glinda raises her hand to unknowingly share a room with Alphaba. So both of the girls are stuck together to both of their distastes. They room, they fight through song and dance, but eventually they learn to tolerate each other's presence. And I will skip through like kind of the college filter moments because most of it is everybody being head over heels in love with Glinda, especially Bach, a Munchkin side character who is also the love interest of Nessa. So I guess this is now like the middle of the movie, I would say, where they're in Professor Dillamon's class. And I think this is where the conflict begins to reveal itself because Professor Dillamon is the oldest and last animal professor at Shiz University, and as he's about to tell the important history of how animals and humans once coexisted peacefully in a time before the Wizard of Oz came, he flips over the chalkboard and he sees very like hateful and discriminatory words towards animals, and whoever wrote it isn't found even in the end, but they basically wrote, "Goats shouldn't be heard, they should only be seen," implying that goats and animals alike are lesser than species of human and that they shouldn't be allowed to teach or have rights. And Professor Dillamon dismisses class while Alphaba chooses to stay after and provide some comfort because it's important to notice that Alphaba tries to find kinship with Professor Dillamon, and because he's an animal and because she was raised by the bear maid who was also an animal, she definitely feels a deeper connection to Professor Dillamon, which is why she stays after. And after this scene, Alphaba goes to Madame Morble's one-on-one sorcery lessons, and Alphaba is learning to levitate a coin without using her anger. But when she gets angry on behalf of Professor Dillamon's like hate crime that he experienced, Madame Morble's is like she's aware of the discrimination he's facing, but she chooses not to take any action or to soothe like Alphaba, and she's only amazed by Alphaba's immense power to levitate the coin as well as shake the room and crack the glasses, sorry, when she is angry on behalf of Professor Dillamon's like hate crime. And I think this scene was also interesting because from the beginning, at least to me, like Madame Morble's, like yes, I love Michelle Yeoh, but she definitely has like a unhealthy, morbid fascination with Alphaba from the beginning, and it's I think she plays it really well because it seems like, oh, I'm treating you kindly because I only want to get something out of you. And Alphaba can't see that yet until later when their whole like grand scheme is revealed when they meet the Wizard of Oz. But I think I had always saw Madame Morbles as viewing Alphaba as a mere pawn to her, and I always had a suspicious feeling that she had a ulterior motive, which is again, like I said, later revealed when they go see the wizard in the city of Oz. And to go back about how the conflict is being driven, so animals are missing. So not only is Professor Dillamon being hate crimed for, but fellow animals like his kin are being missing because later that night, Alphaba follows Professor Dillamon outside of campus to his home, and she eavesdrops on like this secret like animal intervention where they're afraid, rightfully so, that they might be kidnapped next or that they might go missing. And imagine those like investigation boards with like the red string and like missing animal cases, because that's what is being shown in this scene. And moreover, I think Professor Dillamon said that animals will have their rights stripped, prohibiting them from learning how to speak and teach and just all the things that normally should be given as a right to them. And when Alphaba goes forward to the room to eavesdrop closer, she gains like a vision as in like a psychic vision. She sees into the future where Professor Dillamon is in a cage and he is acting purely like a goat. And this is when they sense her presence and all the animals disperse. But Professor Dillamon, being the kind goat he is, he offers her to come inside, and Alphaba wants to help him in any way she can. And she wants to bring more people, like other advocates, to raise more awareness of this. But Professor Dillamon says you can't tell a single soul about this because he has an inkling, which is later proven right, that the entire Shiz University is in on it, including Madame Orbles, right? And when Alphaba leaves Professor Dillamon's house, she runs into a man who is horseback riding, and he is wearing royal clothes. And yes, he is Prince Fierro, but she doesn't know who he is yet until the next morning when Shiz University makes an announcement that Prince Fierro will be attending their school. And of course, Glinda has her eyes set on wooing Prince Fierro, and they have a song and dance in the library. It was a little cheesy, a little corny, but it was cute and entertaining to watch. And later that night, they go to the dance together. But I also want to mention how Glinda, she doesn't force, but she convinces Bach to ask out Nessa to go to the dance. But the way that she convinces Bach is almost like Nessa's a charity case, because again, I can't stand those who are less fortunate than me. So Bach does ask out Nessa, and Nessa goes to her sister Alphaba, and she doesn't directly say like, oh, you should thank Glinda for me having a date, but that's basically the tone and implication that she has. So now fast forwarding later to that day where they're getting ready for the dance. So Glinda and her two cronies are helping her get ready for the dance. And when they're in their room, they find Glinda's grandmother's black hat, again the same black hat that is in the opening scene of Wicked, and they egg her on to give it to Alphaba as a way to humiliate her. And Alphaba comes back to the room with sorcery books, and Glinda says that Alphaba should join them to the dance while giving the black hat, saying it goes well with her black outfit. But she knows what she's doing because everyone later on will laugh and she will feel humiliated for wearing all black and literally looking like the Wicked Witch of the West. And I think that was great symbolism where people will purposely dress you into a certain character to play that certain stereotype without you even knowing and without people realizing what they're doing. And why I had said from the beginning that this is really a story about how people made Alphaba the Wicked Witch of the West and how her good intentions were misinterpreted again. But we cut to a scene of Alphaba going to Madame Morbles, giving her an ultimatum: take Glinda as a student, or else Alphaba will stop learning sorcery, magic, and drop their one-on-one private lessons. And now at the dance, Nessa and Bach, as well as Fierro and Glinda, are having a cute moment. Madame Morbles, she shows up and gives Glinda a pink wand, but she harshly just says, like, I have no faith in you. I can't afford to lose Alphaba, so that's why I'm taking you. So you should only be thankful to Alphaba, because otherwise I wouldn't have taken you as a student. And Alphaba comes in, And this is where it was so heartbreaking because everybody laughs at her doing her solo dance. This is where I definitely bawled my eyes out because think of your most embarrassing experience, but 100 times that, because that's how awful the feeling was. And it was really unbearable to watch because it really shows how people can truly be wicked, especially to those who are trying to not conform and be themselves, right? And Fierro says an interesting line to Glinda of, wow, look at her, like she doesn't really care about what anyone thinks, but Glinda corrects her by saying like, no, of course she does care, but she does a good job of pretending not to. And because Glinda feels terrible for partaking in Alphaba's humiliation, she joins Alphaba in her dance, showing some character development for once because Glinda does not care about what others think of her, and her two cronies try to stop her from dancing. But because Glinda does dance with Alphaba, everybody slowly starts to dance, and then the night continues with a lot of reconciliation and new friendships being made. And I think, again, their dance was very symbolic because it finally shows them finding a middle ground with each other, putting aside their jealousy and their pride to really see each other for who they are more clearly. I feel like up until that point, they were so envious and caught up in what they lacked. And they caught up in what they lacked. And it shows because Glinda didn't have Madame Morble's approval and Alphaba had it, but Glinda is so loved by everybody while Alphaba is pretty much hated just because she has green skin, right? And after the dance the next day, both girls, Glinda and Alphaba, they bond in their room, and Alphaba becomes Glindified, I would say. It's their first heart-to-heart moment where they spill secrets to each other and watch, or not watch, but learn how they're more similar than they are different. And when they go to class later on after the dance, Professor Dillamon is arrested during his last lecture of class, and this spurs everybody into like a whole confusion of like what's going on. And the new professor who does come in, he introduces the idea of a cage. And as we all know, like a cage is an item where animals are put in or to stuff things in. And I felt uncomfortable at the scene, especially when people especially when people continued to take notes while the new professor was explaining how, oh, this cage is going to be a new brilliant contraption and this is how we're going to domesticate animals and basically strip them of their rights, right? And the idea of conformity is shown again, especially in this scene, because it basically shows like, do not question the authorities and just obey. And the cage he shows has a cub in it, and Alphaba's outrage about how animals shouldn't be in cages makes everyone fall asleep except for Prince Fierro. It seems like he's the only one who's immune to her powers for some reason. I don't know, it seems a little romantic, some chemistry there, but basically the two of them, they go to the forest slash woods area outside of campus, and they do share a romantic moment together while they free the cub. But then this is where Alphaba sings her solo song and how she can never be the right girl for him because it would only be socially acceptable if he were with Glinda. And when they return to campus, like Alphaba watches Nessa balk Glinda and Fierro together from afar because it seems like she's purposely isolating herself as an outsider because she is too different from the four of them. But as um Glinda is dragging Fierro along to go inside, like he longs to see Alphaba because he's like looking everywhere for her, but it's kind of like a tragic love that can't happen. And I guess fast forwarding a bit later to, I'd say, the midway point of the movie is Alphaba gets an invitation to visit the wizard in the Emerald City. And as they're saying their goodbyes, Glinda notices, or she tells Alphaba how Fierro's been acting differently and she doesn't realize that it's because Fiero and Alphaba shared that romantic moment together. But another song and dance ensues because when Glinda agrees to go on agrees to go to the city on the train with Alphaba, that's where um, they're kind of welcome into the city, and the actresses from the actual Wicked musical are also part of this song and dance scene. And after this scene, they go inside the wizard's castle, met with monkey guards and a wooden robot head, and obviously they're scared because they're like, what the hell, like we thought the wizard was a person, but we're getting a wooden robot wizard head. But then the actual wizard reveals himself in his true form, and he shows them his projected model of the land of Oz. And this is where the audience sees how the yellow brick road is invented, because Alphaba plays with the color changing machine of it to see the different colors of what the yellow brick road could have been. And basically, after that, he offers to take Alphaba as his daughter in his castle. And remember, all this time, especially since her childhood, Alphaba finally gets her chance to undo her green skin when she meets the wizard, but she chooses not to because she's fallen for their false sense of security. And then all of a sudden, this is where I thought it was weird, Madame Morbles also shows up and they show her the ancient book of spells, but she disguises it as, oh, I just couldn't bear to be without you and I wanted to share this moment with you. And they show her the ancient book of spells. Alphaba reads it without fail. Like she literally reads the shit out of that book like she's been reading it since day one. And she accidentally gives monkeys she accidentally gives wings to the monkey guards, and she feels bad because she realizes how much pain the monkey is in. But when she asks if she can undo it, Madame Morbles says that there's no way you can ever undo a spell from the ancient book of spells. And again, this is where their plan of having spies in the air is revealed, and how they wanted more surveillance of the land of Oz. And spoilers again, spoilers on top of spoilers, like the Wizard of Oz is a fraud because he can't read anything from the ancient book of spells, and he is the one behind all the missing animals, and he actually wants to make them servants, and he chooses to make them enemies to unite the land of Oz because, quote, where he's from, which is our human world, right? Because the original story of the Wizard of Oz is that he takes this hot air balloon and he lands and he finds this new, like, what is it, like uncharted territory. Sounds a bit like colonization, but whatever. He finds it, and then that's when everyone claims that he will fulfill their prophecy as the Wizard of Oz. But it's all a lie, it's all a lie. And when Alphaba finally realizes it and that she has been used for her powers, she takes the book and runs off, and Glinda chases after her. So this is, I would say, like escape the castle arc, because this is nearing the end. So both girls try to escape by taking the hot air balloon, but they fail. They run to the attic where Glinda pleads Alphaba to stay, but that isn't what she wants anymore. And Madame Morbles makes an announcement of her betrayal. So this announcement is like a citywide radio announcement of officially making Alphaba the enemy with her green skin, henceforth why she's called the Wicked Witch of the West, right? And Alphaba is deeply betrayed because, again, she was tricked by their false sense of security, and how if she had conformed to them, then yes, she would have received the love and the care and the affection that she always wanted, but it's at what cost? And she reads another spell to give the broom the ability to fly, and Alphaba asks Glinda to come with her because together they'd be unstoppable and unlimited together. And Glinda chooses to stay, and before Alphaba can fly off and go away, Glinda chooses to wrap a black cape around her because, again, she wants to glindify Alphaba as this is probably the last time they'll see each other. And when they do see each other, they are going to be enemies on different sidelines. And the guards come in, Alphaba flies on her broom while singing Defying Gravity. And Glinda also repeatedly sings songs like, I hope you're happy to her because I hope this is everything you've wanted. And from the very beginning till now, I think both of them have struggled with what they really want and at what cost do they have to sacrifice to get what they want. But when Alphaba falls, she sees the younger version of herself in her reflection, and I thought it was a very powerful inner embracement for Alphaba because while she chooses to fly solo, at least she's free, and that is a quote unquote lyric from Defying Gravity. They watch her fly off, and Madame Morbles hugs Glinda, taking her as her new student, and because the entire time Madame Morbles was like an emotional manipulator, I definitely think she will do the same to Glinda. And because Alphaba is gone and she's basically now like their enemy, right? Madame Morbles is gonna say like, Glinda, you have to join us now, and framing it in a way of like, you're the only one that can like bring her back, but it's really like, no, Glinda, you're just gonna become another pawn for the Wizard of Oz and like their like bureaucracy, right? And Shiz is informed of Alphaba's betrayal, and Fiero leaves campus in hopes of finding her. And the closing scene is a close up of Alphaba flying off, and then that's where it turns black. And that's the wrap up, or that's the end of Wicked Part 1. Part 2 will probably be in a year, but if you have seen the musical, you know how musicals work, right? Where it's like part one, they cut intermission, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then they come back and then they watch the latter half of the musical. But in movie times, an intermission is like a year or two. Hopefully, it's just a year. But yes, so now, like, my final thoughts on Wicked. I feel like after watching Wicked, I definitely want to understand more about its lore and how the untold true stories of Alphaba, aka Wicked, is like, how does it fit into the Wizard of Oz and the different retellings of this story, and possibly watch the musical. But when I saw the Paramount tickets, because it's here in Paramount, tickets were expensive, so I will probably just do my own research and like read up on it. But as I said, Wicked Part 2 will hopefully come out in a year, so stay tuned for my next movie review on Part 2 of it. And I think overall, like, I'm excited to see Glinda and Alphaba interact now that they're enemies in Part 2, because it's bittersweet to see that Glinda didn't go with Alphaba, but it wasn't as heartbreaking as I mentioned it, because at the end of the day, Glinda chooses to conform, and she has always been that type of person from the very beginning. She cares about how she's perceived. She cares about people. She cares about making people happy, and she is almost happy being their puppet in a way, because at least it makes her feel useful. And it ties back to that overarching theme of like, you will get what you want, but never in the way you want it, because Glinda has her powers. She has her pink bubble that she flies around in, and she has her pink wand. She has beautiful clothes, but it's at what cost? Because she only became Madame Morble's student, that I'm assuming that she becomes her student after Alphaba leaves. And the same goes for Alphaba, because she chooses to rebel, and she's reaching a newer point of no return and a newer level of isolation, because she is now the enemy of the Land of Oz. But it's at what cost? Like, her good intentions were twisted and manipulated, but staying true to her moral compass felt right to her, but it's gonna wrong so many others, right? And as cliche as it is, I feel like Glinda is really going to be mad once she finds out that Alphaba and Fiero like have fallen in love, because their romantic chemistry was definitely hinted at throughout the movie, and when I was reading about the second part of Wicked the musical, there is a scene where the two of them meet, but I think Glinda finds out about it and she confronts them, but I know that the musical isn't the same as the movie, and I know everybody was worried about like Ariana Grande's acting because it didn't, how do I say it? It didn't compare, or it didn't raise to the expectation as the actresses of the musical. But besides the point, like I think she played Glinda in her own way. Like it was very humorous, witty, very like it had its moments here and there for wittiness. And I think she still slayed, to be honest. And I think that's just my bias as an Ariana Grande fan. I don't think she brought out her singer persona into it. She definitely played that very like Sharpay-ish it girl with the pink and with Miss Popularity, right? But yeah, and I think Cynthia Erivo did an amazing job. Like every scene she was in, I felt like it was so powerful, and she really brought like the acting to like a different stage. And I mean, it made me cry, and I'm pretty sure it's going to make you cry too, especially during the scene where they dance at the not high school, the college dance. But yeah, like I think those are all my final thoughts. Let me know what you think about Wicked once you watch it on November 22nd, 2024. So, literally a day after this movie review comes out, or on the day that the movie releases everywhere worldwide publicly. And you can always follow more of Ground Zero's content and my content with them at GC Radio, for both their Instagram and YouTube. And go catch Krista's Curiosities podcast on Spotify and at GZ Radio. I have a lot of episodes, and hopefully the next one will be with Long again. I need to have a new episode with him because he's been too busy. I mean, everyone's been too busy, but I hope you are never too busy to watch and follow this podcast. And I want to do more movie reviews. So thank you again, Global Allied Marketing, for giving us the chance to create content out of a exclusive and advanced screening of Wicked. Thank you.